Hi, my name is Emilie Pine and I am the author of Notes to Self. This is a book about all those things that we know we shouldn't say out loud, but I decided that I would write them down and own up to all the things that I am embarrassed about, ashamed about, that are difficult, the difficult emotions in our lives. And this is a collection of personal essays about my life, my family's life, and all the things I kept hidden for years. I'm here in Waterstones, Piccadilly, and I'm here to share 4 of my favourite books. And my first choice is OBrien, and a novel called The Land of Spices. It was banned when it was first published in the 1940s for being obscene, banned in Ireland that is, and not unbanned until the 1960s. I really feel like O'Brien missed her window as a result. She's a fantastic writer. She lived in Spain for years and then wrote a lot about Spain, but this is a novel set in Ireland, and it's set in a convent boarding school, and it has 2 central characters, Anna Murphy, who's the child who gets brought to boarding school, and then the Reverend Mother, who is a really complicated character, really kind of quiet, quite silent actually on the outside, but on the inside she's still the private person, Helen Archer, who was the girl before she became the nun. And they develop this really complex relationship where they each enable the other to be brought out of herself. And what I love at the end of the novel is that Anna Murphy, she's about to leave school and become a woman, and she thinks about what she will do with her life, and she thinks about all of the different careers that are open to her, and writing is the thing that she dreams of doing, and this idea that through writing you can discover the world and own the world, and that for me was incredibly inspiring then, but also now as well. So my second choice, also fiction, is a collection of short stories called Where the God of Love Hangs Out by Amy Bloom. I didn't used to read a lot of short stories, but a few years ago I went through something that was just really emotionally difficult, and I found that in the wake of it I couldn't read anymore. I couldn't stay with something as long as a novel. And my partner gave me this and said, I think this could help you. And I thought, yeah, I can concentrate for 10 pages at a time. And it helps that, the clue is in the title, all of the stories are about love in some way. And I really feel like this collection brought me back to life. And we go through the lives of so many characters who are struggling, or who are lonely, or who are alone or married but still isolated, or in families where they can't communicate with each other, or where something goes catastrophically wrong. And yet the attempt is always to come back to love in some way. And I felt by the end of the collection that there was so much faith in this, and hope for an emotion that is so difficult in real life. And she manages it, and it gave me a faith back for living again, and that meant a lot to me. And I just think she's an incredible writer, both a novelist and a short story writer, but her short stories are really incredible. She has a series of short stories called the William and Claire stories that follow characters through different parts of their lives. I think she's captivating, and I would love to see more people reading her books. So I'm now in the true crime section at Waterstones, which is not where I would normally find myself. And this is the next book that I want to recommend. It's The Red Parts, an autobiography of a trial by Maggie Nelson. I would normally look for her in the memoir section, and I have to say that I was kind of slow to come to this book because of its categorization as crime. Nelson makes it about so much more, right? It's also the story of the end of a relationship. It's a story of a family. She's talking about the murder of her aunt, which she had previously written a collection of poetry about. And here she is moving into non-fiction prose. And she talks about how after a distance of about 30 years, the person who the police believe was responsible for her aunt's death is finally put on trial. There's finally evidence against him. And she talks about attending the trial with her family and the stress that puts them all under. I love the way she weaves insight into herself, introspection about the process of sitting in a courtroom for weeks, thinking about the impact of that on her family, both her mother and her grandfather, who are mourning the loss of a real person. And then also, in a more abstract sense, the way she talks about how we represent violence against women. So one of the things she does in the book is discuss the photographs of her aunt, Jane, that are used in the trial. And how alienating those photographs are, that they are evidence of a crime, not evidence of a person's life. I just think it's really beautiful. It's also just a great read. And to finish off, we're in the graphic novel section and looking at 100 Demons by Lynda Barry. This is an extraordinary book that I only discovered recently. I love graphic novels, I think. So many of them are misnamed. They're actually graphic memoirs. But there is a kind of fictional element, I suppose, to it as well. A colleague of mine and I, we were co-teaching this course, and she put this on it and I read it, and I was so thankful that we got to do co-teaching because I wouldn't have discovered it otherwise. It's an insight into Barry's childhood, growing up in America but as part of an immigrant family, and that sense of a kind of hyphenated existence where you are both from this community but also from elsewhere, and how the difficult challenges that are. Barry has this thing about how her house smells differently to everybody else's because they cook different kinds of food, and that feeling of belonging that comes through food, but also not belonging as well, being told that you're different. And one of the things that I really love about this is that right at the end she has this section where she talks about how she makes the art. And so she shows us the tools that she uses and talks about the process that she uses. And you see, an actual photograph of Barry herself at work. And I love that insight into this, books don't just magically appear, they get made. And that that they are material objects as well. And that, the authors and the readers are both involved in processing and holding and sharing the work. And that the work is a result of effort, and it's not just flung down on the page, that it has its own journey to it as well. So Lynda Barry's 100 Demons, it's really fantastic.